Hi, welcome to the Supply Chain Management with GDP podcast, where we discuss industry best practices, current affairs, effective leadership, and the latest innovations in the world of supply chain. Aimed at explaining the concepts of supply chain in the leanest way possible, comes one of the most efficient and quickest shows where you will listen to interviews with various subject matter experts in the supply chain domain. So let's just get right into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast Supply Chain with GDP. We have Shubham Sinha, who's working in Amazon right now. So we let him introduce himself. So, Shubham.
So thanks, Gagan, for having me as a guest. Happy to join. So my name is Shivam. I recently graduated with my master's in industrial engineering with a minor in supply chain optimization from the University of Southern California. I graduated last fall and I started working as a trans analyst at Amazon since February.
That's awesome. So, were you always aiming towards getting into supply chain in USC, or was that not your ideology when you were in undergrad as well?
No, I was like fishing in different ponds when I was in undergrad, and I wasn't really into supply chain until my first job at Ashok Leyland as a deputy manager in supply chain. So one of my main goals was to improve the warehouse inventory systems in one of our manufacturing centers in Ashok Leyland in Bhandara. Through my Lean Six Sigma training and some ABC techniques, we were able to complete a massive project where we were able to position our inventory based on consumption levels and price of products in in our warehouse and attic. So that kind of inspired me to take up supply chain as an early career prospect when I was applying for my masters in USC, and I was lucky to get an admission into one of the best colleges, at least on the west coast of the US, and take up this industrial engineering role. And I believe that in this COVID and post-COVID era, supply chain has the biggest potential. We're always looking to improve our network right from raw material production till the end customer.
That's awesome. USC is definitely a great university. So, coming to your work experience, we all know Amazon as a company, it's one of the biggest supply chains out there in itself. Why did you decide to take up
Yep,
work in
yep.
Amazon?
I could answer this question in two ways. So candidly, because Amazon reached out to me, so I was looking for a job, so I didn't have to think twice before joining the organization. So that's obviously one of the reasons why I
Mhm.
decided to join. Went through the entire interview process. So we do have a very unique process to interview at Amazon with the loop and bar raisers. But my major motivation was as you rightly said, Amazon is an ever-growing network in the supply chain and logistics region, and with the mentality moving towards online shopping in the back of coronavirus pandemic, I believe that this was the best company to join on an entry level position as a trans analyst and understand their current business of how they optimize their entire supply chain from an FC to the final customer, and look for various room for improvement by using my problem solving techniques.
So cool to hear you calling transportation analyst as a trans analyst.
Yeah,
In the world of
yeah.
supply chain, we are all used to having short forms.
Oh yeah,
But
we are.
touching on that, what do you exactly do as a transportation analyst? And is it similar to logistics analyst?
As a trans analyst, my major goal is to identify, create, develop any sort of innovative solutions, help optimize our North American transport and delivery network. For example, if I can give you a use case, if I have an FC in California which is responsible for delivering goods to pin codes 92000 to 93000, what's the volume flow, how's the volume flow happening in different times of the year, is there room for improvement, what are the outliers in our data analysis that affects the entire supply chain, the outbound supply chain from the FC to the final customer. So I was really motivated to join as a trans analyst. And to answer your second question, I think transportation analyst and a logistics analyst can be used interchangeably, but specifically in Amazon, being such a huge company with over 200 million prime subscribers and counting, and over 500 million subscription accounts in the US, Canada, and Mexico combined, I believe it would be difficult for anyone, like let alone a regional manager to monitor the network from inbound to in-house production to outbound. So that's the reason we do have multiple teams at Amazon to monitor the different areas of the supply chain, which is the reason probably why you would see very few logistics analysts at Amazon. But yeah, in a small scale business, for example, maybe a third party carrier like UPS, you might see these terms being used interchangeably.
That makes perfect sense. So, in supply chain in general, we have noticed that data doesn't get utilized as
Yeah.
well as in other industries. So, how would you say the role of data is developing in the transportation sector?
I think it's very critical to first of all understand the business in which we are working, and as far as transportation goes, the role of data is amazingly critical. So if you don't have basic level knowledge of for variables in our outbound network, for example, caps in an FC, so volume caps in an FC, what's the maximum volume an FC can hold at any time? What is the cost per unit of an item that is being shipped from point A to point B? What is the mileage of a particular truck being used? What is the cost of us outsourcing our operations to a third party carrier? I think it'll be it becomes very complex to recommend improvements in the system. So I believe the role of data is critically important, and it's imperative that we have the tools and metrics in place to understand any anomalies in our network. And by anomalies, I would say, for example, what would you do if a particular network is affected by weather conditions? How would you counter that? So without the relevant data to study past trends and in order to make a forecast, I believe it would be very difficult to come up with scalable solutions.
So we have a lot of our graduate students working
Yeah,
towards degrees in analytics or data
yeah,
science, but then a lot of them struggle to understand the business side of, for example,
yeah.
supply chain. How critical do you think is to understand the business before you can crunch data, however good you might be with the tools?
It's a very good question. So I think whenever you join a company, when you have your first interaction with your manager, it's very important to understand the business side of any operation or any project that the team you have just joined is working on. Because if you don't understand the business, then you are not able to come up with the right engineering tools or metrics to build in order to identify good solutions for your problems. So I believe understanding the business before any technical news is extremely important.
Makes sense. So this is another thing that I've noticed with a lot of individuals trying to get into supply chain
Yeah,
is that they believe that network analysis, operations research, these
yeah.
kind of subjects take a back seat in terms of more critical subjects like supply chain or lean analysis. So what are your thoughts on that?
If I have to talk about network analysis, the first technical term that comes to my head is linear programming. That helps you get better understanding of say sensitivity analysis, shadow pricing. Like for example, if I'm trying to make an improvement in an operation, is the cost of my building that improvement. So whether it be an extra facility in Amazon, or building an extra tool or metric to understand some anomaly or some outlier in my data. So is the cost of building the tool going to offset the cost of the improvement itself, or rather the forecasted improvement itself? So I think understanding these sort of data points is critical, building the right tools and the right metrics to come up with good engineering, innovative, problem solving methodologies. So yeah, to answer your question, I think operations research or network analysis through shadow pricing, sensitivity analysis, and Excel solver is one of the tools that helps you achieve both if you know how to use it correctly.
That's awesome. So, coming to my last question that I have for the day, you seem to have a plethora of experiences in terms of doing an undergrad in mechanical engineering,
Yeah,
working in three different firms in the
yeah.
supply chain domain. How critical do you think are the subjects we learn back in school and the implementation at workplace? What is the joint between them, and how critical is it to understand these subjects, or is it totally different being in the workplace?
I believe when you do your undergrad in mechanical engineering, for example, you exposed to a lot of different departments like materials engineering, stress analysis, and engineering management. supply chain, and computational engineering. So I guess during your undergraduate experience, you might not find much relevance to learning tools that are relevant to supply chain. In that case, it's very important that you choose your electives in your junior and senior year correctly if you really want to set up a solid base as a supply chain engineer. And when you come up to your master's degree, it's very important that you choose your subjects very carefully. I believe as a supply chain analyst, you must have proficiency one in project management, like drawing PERT diagrams and stuff to understand the network flow is very important for any budding supply chain analyst. Data visualization tool like Tableau, Power BI. In Amazon, we use Amazon QuickSight, and you must have some really good confidence in data analysis tools like R, Python, and data extraction tools like SQL in order to join tables from foreign databases or foreign clusters to help build tools.
I believe that is the wrap for the day. Shubham, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your thoughts and your experiences. I believe you'll add a lot of value to the listeners. And
Yep,
I hope to see you soon on our podcast in the future.
absolutely. I'm happy to be your guest again. And yep, thanks for having me here.
Thank you. And thank you to all the listeners. Stay tuned. We'll be back with another episode, with another interview next week. Thank you and good night. Hi, welcome to the Supply Chain Management with GDP podcast,